everyone. This is Noosh. Thank you for joining us today for episode 4. Speaking of vendor relationships, a question that we get asked a lot by our couples is how does a vendor get on your preferred list? So, Neha, would you like to tell everyone how we
Yes.
vet our vendors?
Yes. So our vendors are very important to us. They make or break an event, as we all know. We work with our vendors very, very closely. And we do have a preferred vendor list that we've created over the years. And the biggest criteria that I really look for when we add vendors to our preferred list is years of experience for sure. We look for vendors that have been in the industry for 5 years or more, also full-time vendors. There's a lot of vendors out there that are emerging left, right, and center. Anyone who can hold a clipboard thinks they can become a wedding planner. Anyone who can drive a truck thinks they can be decorator. But it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur and to be good at your skill as well. And one of the biggest things, believe it or not, we look at with vendors is their process. How does it look like from the time a client picks up the phone to call a vendor to the time the wedding is all done? And a big thing that we also look for is responsiveness. Are they responding? And I'm sure a lot of couples would agree to this. And one of the biggest things we hear from our couples is, we're not getting like our photographer, videographer, our decorator. We can't get a hold of them.
I sent them an email a week ago.
Yeah. And sometimes we're like, you know what? Let us try our magic. And truth be told, we can have this attested. Every time we've reached out to them and been like, our couple's trying to get hold of you, they're like, oh no, okay, let's get on this right now. And then that very instant, we get a message from our couple saying,
they responded. Thank you. Yeah.
So in terms of preferred vendors, I think that's one of the biggest things that we look for. I know everyone's busy, but please have a process in place. We take the time to learn your process as well so we can sell it better to our client for you. So definitely a good process is something that we look for. Years of experience, like I already talked about, that's huge for us as well. And then the overall experience that you really give to our couple too. So on the day of, for example, for photographers, it's very important for someone to have a personality and a sense of direction. There's so many times when we're doing the photos and like, something small like, hey, you have the camera in your hand. You can see that uncle's wearing glasses or that auntie's sari is not right, but we're the ones running around fixing it.
Yeah.
And then later on, especially with parents' photos, those things get missed, right? I think that's one of the biggest things as well that we look for, the professionalism that you bring to the table, and the sense of direction. And my personal favorite is working together as a team, right? Like we all know our end goal is to make our couples happy and have a successful event. We're all working towards that one goal. There is no reason for you to throw other vendors under the bus because you want to shine. Our last episode was all about our guest and our other reasons that wedding planners get blamed for. But I feel like with vendors, you need to understand that we're all a team together.
Yeah, we're all
we
one team.
shouldn't be against each other. Like we're all working towards a certain goal, which is common, right? And I feel like if you're a vendor that makes us look good as wedding planners, you're definitely on our preferred vendor list, right? And I guess these are the main things that I really look for when we add vendors to our preferred list.
So Neha, speaking of vendors and preferred vendors, we spoke about what gets them on our list. What takes them off that list?
I had to ask that. It does take a long time for certain vendors, especially if we've been working with them for a very long time. I think one of the biggest things that takes them off our vendor list is if they obviously haven't had a service that's up to mark for our couple. We also, at the end of our planning as an offboarding process, do take the time to speak to our couples and ask them how has their experience been with
Yep.
the vendors that we recommended to them, which also attests to a lot of these things, because sometimes we don't see it, especially if if you've been dealing with vendors over a long time, or if we're doing event management or month of. But definitely, like, one of the things that speaks for themselves of being on the vendor list or off, it's really the experience that they've given our couples, and also how they've made us feel during a wedding.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, we're not the wedding planners that are bossing the couples around, even though I have this cup. I promise this is just for the aesthetic.
It's just a cup.
Exactly. But we're not that type of planners that do the bossing around and stuff. We always feel that we work together, not for each other, not against each other. And I feel like that is a very important thing for us. So kicking them off will definitely all depend on how the end result of a wedding has been once we work together. If they've done certain things that are completely against our policies and how we would like them to execute an event. But yeah, all in all, I feel like the kicking off is the harder part. It's just like, how we fire at
client
a
or-
workplace,
yeah.
and how it's not easy. The same way it's not easy, especially if they've been a part of it for a long time. But trust me, it takes a lot of vetting before we make that final decision.
Yep. Speaking of, you brought up month of coordination. A month of coordination is something where, like, we'll step in 6 weeks before, and the couples kind of book their own vendors. A lot of times we'll see that the couple has booked a vendor that is not been around for too long or is brand new. How does that work? How does a new vendor, and we get asked all the time by the new vendor, how does a new vendor get on our preferred list?
Yeah, so month of coordination is a very tricky one. And we always sit at the end of the year and really evaluate
Yeah.
if we want to keep that. And I'm very serious. I'm saying this on camera. We are planning to completely eliminate month of coordination. It's been a big one where we work with all different kind of vendors that our couples have booked. Although if our couple has reached out to us a lot earlier, we can even share the preferred vendor list, and we say, you know what? No cost to you. Like, we would like you to use as many of our preferred vendors, so it makes it easier for us on the day of. And then if, like, the end result of something that you're looking for does not happen, at least we can go after that vendor and have some relationship. Sometimes just having a WhatsApp number or an actual personal number of a vendor makes a huge difference for us on the morning of. And with month of, we're dealing with vendors that we haven't worked with. And we're like, can we just create a group or like something on the day of? And people have trouble with that as well. So with new vendors, I think the biggest thing is that we can't take any responsibility of how they're going to be executing a certain service, right? Like, especially with month of coordination, all couples have booked their vendors on their own. We're really there to coordinate their event, and hence we're questioning this package now. And we've done something which is a bit more, that's event management, just an extension of our month of. And it's been going great. Like this year, we've booked quite a few with month ofs as well.
You mean event management?
Event management as well. Yeah, month of is on my mind. But yeah, event management couples as well. But yeah, for the new vendors, it's a really hard one. We have a process of referrals through anybody else that has used that vendor before. Also, Google reviews go a long way. I know that Google's reviews could be biased sometimes. Like, we don't know what the background of all of that is, but unfortunately that's what a service based, like when we go to restaurants, we're looking at Google reviews, and then
we pick a restaurant.
So same thing like with our service based industry as well. Google reviews are big and they tell us a lot. And sometimes we have to become investigators, believe it or not, where we're like, where did this Google review come from? Let's go back and see if we can speak to that person, and then they can actually attest the Google review. And that takes so much of our time just to make sure that your event goes exactly how you guys have planned it.
Because we've had that. We've had that happen where, like, we've had a month of and we've had a new vendor show up and it's not what was promised. Like we've had that so many times where, yeah, like we're not gonna take names, but so many times, we've had on the day of the colors are different than what was approved, or like they show up at 9 a.m. when they were supposed to show up at 6 a.m. And we have no control over that, right? Like when it's a newer vendor, at least with ours, you can pick up the phone and call them.
Yeah, and it's that easy, and hence, like, taking that time to really create that relationship with them goes a long way as well. And I feel like with new vendors, another thing that is very important is, yes, you've started your new business, but being an entrepreneur, and I'm saying this after being in the industry for 17 years, is completely different than what your trade is, right? Like we already have social media that's evolving. I feel like I learned something on Instagram and the next day it's completely different.
Yeah.
And keeping up with it is so hard, but everyone sees the big numbers in our wedding industry and they're like, oh my God, why do we need to be doing a 9 to 5 when we can just make an X amount of dollar over the weekend? It takes a lot. It really does take a lot. And I see like so many people, like if you go on Facebook Marketplace, so many people are closing down their businesses because they can't keep up. And it's like every year around here, even myself, like I question, I'm like, do I want to do this again and again? But it's really our couples that have the trust in us and that really believe in us that keep us going year after year. And they're like, Neha, we see your passion. We know you want to continue this. Don't let a bad seed ruin it for everybody else.
100%. 100%.
Right? So that's basically what it is. But new vendors, it's a really hard one. I know you are all trying out there, but we just have to do our due diligence and make sure that the end result is still what we all hope for.
So Neha, speaking of preferred vendors, can you remember one instance in the past 2, maybe 3 years where a preferred vendor has actually saved us?
Oh, this is an amazing one. Love it. So, kudos to our preferred vendors. There's a reason why we still exist after such a long time. And it's definitely our vendors make or break us. And I remember there was this one time when we were planning a wedding in downtown Toronto.
Yep.
Earlier, it's very recent actually.
Last year.
Our first wedding of 2024. And we were at One King West, and both the couple and their families were all coming out of town. Nobody lived here. The only person that lived here was bride's friend.
Yes,
bride's friend.
Yeah.
He is the one who was here, but everybody else was coming out of town. We had about 85 guests at this wedding. And then I remember 2 days before, legit, our groom calls and he's like, I tried on my sherwani
and too tight.
It's too tight. Nothing fits. And I'm like, bro, it's like Good Friday. Yeah, it was a Good Friday.
It was a Good Friday weekend. Yeah, I remember it was 1 a.m. We got the call and I'm like, what are we going to do?
And I'm like, next day, we don't even have anything open.
Yeah.
And all of that. But like, oh my God, I remember, shout out, Chandan Fashion. I'm going to say this out. Usually we don't say names here, but honestly, just messaging Chandan and he was like, you know what, tomorrow we'll open the store.
9 a.m.
They can come in and book an appointment and they can look at the sherwanis. And oh my God, within a matter of an hour, they ended up getting the sherwani. And I also remember our bride needed to get alteration.
Yeah, her blouse. Yeah, it was too tight.
And the same thing, with Chandan Fashion and them being there on the day of, that really saved us.
Yeah.
And not just us, I feel like even with our couple, because they had no idea where to go to in Toronto for this kind of stuff. And mind you, this is also a long weekend, right? This is when you're not open. So it's not like you're open and anybody can walk in and it's no big deal. But yeah I think that really stood out to me. I've also been in situations where a vendor did not show up, period. Did not show up. And I would say it was a flooring vendor our couple had booked with. This still gives me nightmares, by the way. Every time the flooring comes, I'm always I really go back in time and think about it again. It was a flooring vendor. And this was years ago, where they were supposed to do the floor and they did not show up.
Oh my
Like, just did not show up. And when I called the bride as well, it was a month of coordination. And the bride's like, oh no, like he was even playing with my dog, and he, like, how could he forget? And I was like, oh, I mean, the guy's not here, and it's already 4:30, or event starts at 6. And I remember calling another of the flooring vendor at that time, and how they had they showed up with an army of 7 people.
That is crazy.
To do the floor. Mind you, at that time, I did have to pay a bit from my pocket, because, like, at the end of the day, I wanted this flooring done, and this vendor did go above and beyond and showed up and got it done. But they had to have an SOS situation, right? And that comes with a pretty penny. But it got done. They were happy at the end. And I felt like, these are vendors that we can really count on if anything really goes wrong.
Yeah. I remember one phone call away and then they show up. So many times it's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Neha, rapid fire. What is the one vendor that you would not want to trade places with?
Decor.
Photo video. 100%. I would never want to. All right, next one. What is your... Actually, no, let me go back to this one. DJ messing up the playlist or caterer forgetting the dessert? Which one is worse? DJ, for me.
Both for me. It's both. We've been into both the situations, and I know what I've been through, so both.
Okay, aunties or uncles, who causes more drama?
Uncles, in my case. If you haven't watched our other episodes, you will know why.
Aunties in mine. I've had aunties pinch me because I was blocking their view during a Milne. But yeah, anyways.
And you were bruised.
And I was bruised.
Forget.
Yeah, I was bruised. Would you rather deal with a micromanaging bride or a chill bride?
Chill bride. Thanks for trusting us. There's a reason why you're hiring a wedding planner. And it would be awesome if you just stay chill and let the professionals do their job.
I agree. Chill bride. I was a chill bride.
Yeah.
So chill bride for me. Red lenga or another color?
Red lenga for me all the way. I love a bride, an Indian bride in red.
Sounds good. Another color for me, my wedding lenga was not red. Worst time to get a wedding related phone call?
Yeah, when I'm trying to sleep, 2 a.m. in the morning, even like early morning too, when we're trying to get ready.
Yeah, I've had 2 a.m., 6 a.m.,
and
4 a.m.
I remember when you were driving, you've gotten tickets because of that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, distracted driving. She's still fighting the tickets for that, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, tickets. Yeah, when we're driving. But yeah, most chaotic wedding guest that you've seen.
Kids, sometimes we can say. Now that, again, if you haven't watched our episode, you definitely should.
Yeah, kids.
Kids, wedding guest, no matter how much arrangements. I have kids of my own, okay? Please don't judge. But please keep your kids with you.
And not on the dance floor.
Have entertainment for them, and babysitters such as iPads.
Yeah, fair. I think for me is drunk uncles, because I've had that at weddings that I've attended. Yeah, just leave it at that. Let's leave it at that. Last one, Neha. Craziest, this wasn't in the plan moment that you've experienced.
We all know we plan for the best and the worst, but things sometimes go haywire, and that's why we're there to make it seamless. I would say forgetting like a ritual element at home. Recently, we had a wedding where the
bags were mislabeled. Yeah,
the bags were mislabeled, and then they went back home. Then we had to call your husband, who was called the unsung hero. BP, this one's for you, who came and really dropped off all the stuff, and we had to switch the program only for the better to make that work.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was great. BP, we love you. But yes, yeah, that was it. I don't know. I think mine would be the same one. It would be that because it's so fresh. Another one, I guess, would be the outfit for our groom from last year, but we've already spoken about that. So yeah.
That's it for our episode, everyone. This is episode number 4, and we talked all about vendor relationships, what to look for, what to not look for, and what it takes to really be a successful wedding planner. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time.